They called her the most untouchable child in America, a girl so feared that grown adults quit their jobs after meeting her. But on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, a tired waitress wiped her apron, turned around, and came face to face with the storm everyone else ran from. Audrey Hill was 8 years old and already a legend in the worst possible way. 7 nannies had quit in the last 4 months. 3 tutors had sworn never to return. 2 therapists had left their sessions in tears, and one billionaire, her father, Robert E. Hill, had begun to fear that even he no longer knew his daughter. The headlines didn't help. Billionaire's daughter causes a scene at charity event. Child genius or child menace? No one can handle Audrey Hill. Every photo showed the same thing. A beautiful little girl with big green eyes, curls like melted gold, and a stare that could cut through steel. Before we continue, I want to speak to you for a moment. If stories like this remind you that kindness still exists, if they make you feel something real in a world that's getting louder and colder, then I'd love to have you here with us. This channel isn't just videos, it's a tiny corner of the internet where good people come together, where we believe in second chances, in hope, and in humanity. And right now you're early. You're part of the very first people building this family with me. So if you want to grow with us, if you want more stories that touch your heart, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, it supports the channel more than you know, and it tells me that there are still people out there who believe in kindness just as much as I do. If you have subscribed to this channel, I can officially say, welcome to the family. Robert Hill had built empires, bought companies, reshaped industries, but the one thing he couldn't control was the child sitting in the back seat of his limousine as it rolled to a stop in front of a small neighborhood cafe. Hillstone Cafe, the last place he wanted to be, but the only place open after Audrey ran off her newest nanny with a shriek and a hairbrush thrown like a weapon. Inside the cafe, Maya Daniels was wiping down the front counter, humming under her breath. It had been a long morning, double shift, noisy customers, and tips barely worth counting. She hadn't slept more than 4 hours the night before, but she still carried that quiet patience people loved about her. She had no idea her entire life was about to change. The bell above the door chimed. Everyone looked up, and the entire cafe went silent. Robert E. Hill stepped inside, powerful, tailored, exhausted. His presence filled the room like a sudden gust of cold wind. But the real reason people froze? The little girl beside him. Audrey marched in like she owned the building, her chin high, her eyes sharp, her steps loud enough to demand attention. Customers shifted away without being asked. "Daddy," she snapped, "this place smells poor." Robert closed his eyes briefly, shame and fatigue tightening his shoulders. "Audrey, please." But Audrey was already slapping menus off a nearby table, sending them crashing to the floor. A couple in the corner jumped. A waitress ducked instinctively. The manager peeked from the kitchen like a frightened squirrel. Maya, still holding her cloth, watched it all, her brows raised, not in fear, but in disbelief. Audrey grabbed a sugar container and shook it upside down, letting white crystals rain across the counter. "Where's the chef?" she demanded. "I want waffles shaped like the Eiffel Tower, and if he can't do that, fire him." The chef, overhearing from the kitchen window, slowly crouched out of sight. Another waitress approached hesitantly. "Sweetie, Don't call me sweetie," Audrey shrieked, throwing a fork that clattered against the espresso machine. The manager turned pale. "Sir, maybe today isn't a good day." Robert rubbed his forehead. "I'm aware." He looked like a man who'd weathered every storm except the one he'd created. Customers whispered, "That's her. Isn't that the billionaire's kid? She's worse than the news said." Poor guy. And through it all, Audrey stood proudly, defiant, daring someone to challenge her. Someone, anyone. No one did. Until Maya finally stepped forward. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't flinch, she didn't even look intimidated. She just walked up to the counter, placed her cloth neatly beside her and said, "All right, that's enough." The cafe froze. Audrey turned slowly, her eyes narrowing like a cat spotting prey. "Who are you?" she demanded, hands on her tiny hips. "Maya," she said simply. "And what makes you think you can talk to me like that?" Audrey's voice sharpened. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes," Maya replied. "A little girl making a big mess." Gasps filled the room. A customer dropped their spoon. Robert's eyes widened, half in panic, half in shock. No one talked to Audrey like that. No one dared. Audrey glared. "You're supposed to be scared of me." Maya shrugged. "I don't scare easily." "You should." Audrey stepped closer, chin raised. "Everyone else does." Instead of backing up, Maya knelt so she was eye level with the child everyone feared. "You want to know a secret?" Maya said gently but firmly. "Power only works if people give it to you. I'm not giving you mine." Audrey blinked, confused for the first time that day. Maya continued. "Now, you can pick up the sugar you spilled, or you can sit quietly while I get your father a coffee. Your choice." Silence. Utter silence. The cafe held its breath. Robert stared, stunned and unsure whether to intervene or take notes. Audrey's mouth opened, closed, opened again. This had never happened. No yelling, no panic, no running away. Just a woman looking her in the eyes like she was normal. Audrey didn't know what to do, and for a moment, just a moment, something flickered in her expression. Something that looked suspiciously like respect. She leaned in close, her tiny voice barely above a whisper. "You're not afraid of me?" "No," Maya whispered back. "Not today." The cafe felt electric. It was the first time anyone had ever told Audrey Hill no without shaking. Audrey stared hard at Maya, testing her, measuring her, pushing against that invisible barrier she had mastered breaking in others. But Maya didn't budge, not an inch. Customers exchanged looks. Robert slowly sat down, shock melting into something else, hope. And Audrey took a single step backward. Not much, barely noticeable, but enough for the entire cafe to feel like the earth had just tilted. Audrey's eyes darkened with a new, unsettling curiosity as she whispered, "Fine. If you're not scared, prove it." She reached for the nearest glass of juice, lifting it with a slow, deliberate challenge. And the next chapter begins with Maya's answer. Most people backed away the moment Audrey Hill lifted a glass, because whatever she threw next usually ended in shouting, crying, or a lawsuit. But this time she wasn't facing a nanny or a tutor. She was facing Maya, and Audrey was about to learn what it felt like when someone didn't flinch. The glass of orange juice trembled in Audrey's hand, not because she was afraid, but because she expected power, expected chaos, expected adults to panic the moment her fingers curled around anything fragile. But Maya stood perfectly still, her expression calm, her eyes steady, her posture unmoved. "Go ahead," Maya said softly. "If spilling that will make you feel better, I'll clean it. But it won't fix anything you're trying to break inside yourself." Audrey froze. The entire cafe went silent again, 2 seconds that stretched into a full heartbeat. The little girl narrowed her eyes, trying to understand something she'd never seen before. Someone who was offering her a choice, not reacting to her threat. Then Audrey did the expected. She tipped the glass. Juice splashed across the table and dripped onto the floor. Customers gasped. The manager almost fainted. Robert buried his face in his hands, but Maya only walked forward, grabbed 2 napkins, and started wiping the mess. No sighing, no shouting, no, "Why would you do that?" Just quiet, steady cleaning. Audrey stared. "You're not mad?" "I didn't say that," Maya replied. "I'm just not giving you the reaction you're fishing for." Audrey blinked. "What reaction?" "The one everyone else gives you. Fear." That hit deeper than Maya expected. Audrey stiffened, gripping the edge of the table with small, angry fingers. She grabbed a plate next. Before she could drop it, Maya held out her hand. "Pass it to me." Audrey paused mid-throw. "What?" "If you want to make a mess, we'll do it together, but we'll do it safely." Maya held her palm steady. "Hand it over." The cafe watched in stunned silence. Audrey's face twisted. Confusion, disbelief, irritation swirling together. No one had ever redirected her before. No one had turned her tantrum into a choice instead of a battle. Slowly, Audrey lowered the plate into Maya's waiting hand. Maya set it on a nearby table. "Thank you," she said. Audrey's jaw dropped. "Why are you thanking me? I was trying to break it." "I know," Maya replied with a small smile. "And you didn't. That's progress." "Progress?" Audrey muttered. "I'm not your project." "I didn't say you were. But you're a kid. Kids learn. Kids grow. Kids change." "My dad thinks I can't change," Audrey snapped. "Everyone thinks I'm impossible." For a moment, the voice behind her insults cracked, so faint only Maya caught it. Maya crouched again so she was eye level with her. "Impossible usually means misunderstood," Maya said, "and I think you're more lonely than dangerous." That struck something in Audrey like a hidden nerve. To hide the tremble in her expression, Audrey tried something else, something sharper. She folded her arms and said loudly, "You're not even pretty. Your hair looks messy, and your skin is too dark." Gasps exploded from every corner of the cafe. Robert stood halfway from his seat, mortified. Even the manager whispered, oh no, she went there." Maya didn't blink. "You're trying to hurt me," Maya said gently, "because you think hurting people keeps them from leaving." Audrey froze, mouth open. Maya continued, voice steady but warm. "But I'm still here." For the first time, Audrey's expression faltered, like someone had slowly removed the armor she'd been using since she could talk. "Why?" Audrey whispered. "Because you don't scare me," Maya said, brushing crumbs into her hand. "And because I've met tough kids before." "But you?" She smiled almost playfully. "You're loud, not dangerous." "Loud?" Audrey stomped. "That's all you think I am? Loud?" "Extremely," Maya teased. "Loud and dramatic." Someone covered their face to hide a laugh. Audrey's lips twitched, just a twitch. But for an 8-year-old who treated smiling like weakness, it was a miracle. "You're weird," Audrey muttered. "I get that a lot. You shouldn't talk to me like this." "Why not?" "I'm Audrey Hill." "And I'm Maya Daniels. Nice to meet you." Audrey stared at her as if no one had ever introduced themselves without fear before. Silence stretched again, but this time it wasn't hostile. It was fragile, shifting, new. A child who'd spent her life breaking people. And a woman who refused to break. The cafe exhaled collectively, sensing something impossible happening. Even Robert sat straighter, watching Maya with an intensity he hadn't used on any person in years. Maya stood, wiping her hands. "Now, do you want waffles? Or are we still throwing things?" Audrey hesitated. Then, quietly, almost shyly, she whispered, "Waffles." Maya grinned. "Thought so." The cafe cheered under their breaths. Even the chef peeked out, hopeful he wouldn't be fired today. Robert leaned forward, staring at Maya as if she'd just performed a miracle with nothing but her heartbeat and patience. Audrey, now seated, traced shapes on the table instead of kicking it. She kept glancing at Maya like she was trying to understand her, decode her, figure out why she felt different around her. A calm Audrey Hill was something newspapers would kill to photograph. Maya walked past Robert to put in the order. Robert swallowed hard. Then he stood up and followed her. He tapped her shoulder gently. "Maya," he said, voice low and serious, "can you come with me for a moment?" Maya turned slowly. His expression wasn't angry. It wasn't annoyed. It wasn't even surprised. It was something far stranger. Most people never got close enough to see Robert E. Hill panic. Billionaires didn't panic. Not in public, not in private, not ever. But as he led Maya out of the cafe and toward his black SUV, his hands trembled. Because for the first time in years, someone had made his daughter listen. Maya wiped her apron nervously as Robert motioned her toward the back entrance of the cafe. The massive SUV parked outside gleamed like something pulled from a movie. Tinted windows, silent engine, the kind of car that whispered power without ever needing to say it. "This will only take a minute," Robert said, though his tone made it obvious it would take far more than that. He opened the door for her. Maya hesitated. "Is everything okay?" "No," he said honestly, "but you already knew that." She stepped inside. The interior felt unreal. Smooth leather, a faint cologne, screens built into the doors, cold air humming through hidden vents. She sat on the edge of the seat, like someone afraid to break something expensive. Robert climbed in across from her and closed the door. The silence in the car was thick. He took a breath. And then he said something Maya didn't expect. "You're the first person my daughter hasn't destroyed." Maya blinked. "Destroyed?" Robert leaned back, elbows on his knees, the weight of exhaustion sinking through him. "You saw what she's like," he said quietly. "But what you didn't see is the trail of people she's left behind." He tapped his phone. A file opened, rows and rows of names, nannies, tutors, therapists, child specialists, dozens. Maya swallowed. "These are all people who worked with Audrey. These are just the ones from the last 2 years. Maya felt her spine straighten. "She's a good kid," Robert said, rubbing his forehead. "I know that. I believe that. But she's angry, and she's hurting. And every time someone tries to help her, she pushes them until they run." His voice cracked on the last word, run. Because that's what everyone did. Maya softened. She had seen a lot of parents in the diner. But this? A billionaire father who probably had the world on a string, looked like a man barely hanging on. "What about her mother?" Maya asked gently. Robert's eyes flicked away. "She left when Audrey was 5. Another piece fell into place, Audrey's mistrust, her rage, her need to test everyone until they broke. "She thinks everyone leaves her," Maya whispered. "She knows they do." Robert looked right at her. "Except you." Maya swallowed, stuffing her hands into her apron pockets. "I was just doing my job." "No," he said firmly. "You saw her, you heard her, and you didn't fold." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Maya, I need your help." Her eyes widened. "Sir, with all due respect, I'm not trained for this. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a nanny. I'm just—" "You're not just anything." Maya hesitated. Robert clicked another file on his phone, this time showing numbers, salaries, benefits, housing. "I'm offering you a position," he said, "one that no one else has been able to fill, Audrey's full-time behavioral companion." Maya blinked. "Behavioral? Companion?" "Someone she trusts," he said. "Someone who grounds her, someone she listens to." The numbers on the screen didn't feel real. The salary alone was more than she'd make in 4 years, maybe 5. Housing included. Healthcare covered. Her brother's school fees? Her mother's medication? All possible. All within reach. Her chest tightened. "Sir, that salary is life-changing," Robert finished quietly. "And that's intentional." He looked at her like a man out of options. "I've tried everything money could buy," he admitted. "Now I'm trying something money can't. You." Maya's heart hammered. She came to work today planning to earn tips, maybe get off early if the cafe was slow. She did not expect a billionaire to offer her a job that could lift her entire family above water. She rubbed her palms together. I don't know, this is a lot. I have my mother at home, my little brother. They depend on me. If I leave my job and things don't work out—" "You won't be alone," Robert said gently. "We'll give you a guest house on the property, transportation, a flexible schedule for family visits, whatever you need." Her mind spun. Her life could change. Her family's life could change. But then came the fear. What if she couldn't handle Audrey long-term? What if she failed like everyone else? What if she wasn't enough? She exhaled slowly. "Sir, A small hand tugged her shirt. Maya froze. She turned. Audrey stood outside the open SUV door, staring up at her with wide, uncertain eyes. She must have followed them quietly, without anyone noticing. Her voice was barely a whisper no one had ever heard from Audrey Hill. "Can you stay?" the little girl murmured. Her fingers tightened on Maya's sleeve. Please? Money can buy walls, guards, and impossible luxury, but it can't buy warmth. Maya learned that the moment she stepped through the gates of the Hill estate, where the lights were bright, the floors were spotless, and a cold silence hid in every corner. Maya's duffel bag felt embarrassingly small as she followed Robert through the entrance of the mansion. The doors towered above her, carved with designs that looked older than the country itself. Crystal lights glowed overhead. Marble floors stretched from wall to wall like a runway. It was the kind of place she had only seen in magazines at the salon. Yet as beautiful as it was, the air felt lonely. Her footsteps echoed. No laughter, no music, just silence and money. Your guest house is ready, Robert said, gesturing toward a hallway that led to private residential quarters. But first, Audrey wants to show you something. Maya raised an eyebrow. She wants to? Robert nodded, as surprised as she was. Audrey appeared from behind a staircase holding a stuffed fox by its tail. She didn't yell. She didn't demand anything. She simply tugged Maya's hand and led her upstairs. The staff froze mid-step, watching the scene with disbelief. Whispers followed them. Is she braiding her hair? No tantrum? She's holding someone's hand willingly. Who is that girl? Maya pretended she didn't hear, but she did, and she also noticed the tight looks, some curious, others offended, and a few downright hostile. They were used to being the only ones Audrey listened to, even though Audrey listened to no one. Maya was different, and they knew it. Audrey led Maya to her room, larger than Maya's entire apartment. Toys were scattered everywhere, but they weren't played with, only positioned, lined up, untouched. As Maya stepped closer, she saw the signs no one talked about. Dark circles under Audrey's eyes, a stack of drawings shoved halfway under the bed, every window latch checked twice, a nightlight in every corner. Audrey didn't say a word. She sat on the floor, hugging her fox. Maya knelt beside her. Trouble sleeping? Audrey shrugged, eyes down. Maya softened. You don't have to talk if you don't want to. A small nod, a tiny exhale. It was the first time Audrey didn't use silence as a weapon, but as a shield. Life in the mansion settled into a strange routine. At breakfast, Audrey usually threw food at Nanny's. With Maya, she ate quietly, and even asked for seconds. During lessons, Audrey would scream until tutors quit. With Maya, she listened. She didn't always behave, but she tried. And one afternoon during an art session, Audrey giggled, an actual giggle, when Maya accidentally dropped paint on her own shirt. The staff nearly fainted. She laughed! In this house? Impossible! Even Robert stopped in the doorway, stunned, as if hearing his daughter's laughter was like hearing a language he'd forgotten existed. Some staff members weren't celebrating. Mrs. Ellsworth, the head housekeeper, cold, sharp, always judging, watched Maya with narrowed eyes. The head of security whispered to Robert privately, questioning whether Maya was qualified. A few nannies who had been fired still lived on the property under temporary contracts and glared openly as Maya walked past with Audrey. Respect was earned in this house, and Maya had earned it far too quickly for their liking. Power was shifting, and some people hated that. One night after everyone had gone to bed, Maya passed Audrey's room and noticed the door cracked open. A dim light glowed inside. Maya knocked softly. Audrey? Sweetie? No answer. She pushed the door open, and her heart tightened. Audrey sat curled in the corner, knees tucked beneath her chin, holding her stuffed fox so tight its seams strained. Tears streaked her face. Her small voice trembled in the dark. I know why everyone leaves. She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. It's because of me. Everyone thought Audrey Hill's greatest danger was her temper. But the real danger was what would happen when a hurting child was pushed into the spotlight of the wealthy and judged by the world. The morning after Maya found Audrey crying in the dark, Robert announced they were all attending a high-profile charity gala. Cameras, reporters, billionaires. The kind of event where children like Audrey were expected to smile for photos and pretend their world was perfect. Audrey hated those events. Maya could see it in her eyes as the limousine pulled up to the gold carpet entrance. Her small hands clenched her dress so tightly, her knuckles turned white. "You stay close, okay?" Maya whispered. Audrey nodded, though she didn't let go of Maya's hand. Inside the ballroom, chandeliers shimmered like captured stars. Wealthy guests greeted Robert with applause and admiration. But as Maya scanned the crowd, she noticed something else. Eyes flicking toward Audrey with barely concealed judgment. Is that her? The difficult one? Poor man raising that child alone. Audrey heard every whisper. She always did. Maya squeezed her hand. Ignore them, I'm right here. But the damage was already starting. It happened fast. A guest, a woman wearing too much perfume and too much fake kindness, bent down and pinched Audrey's cheek. "Oh, sweetheart, try to smile. Your daddy needs you to behave tonight." Audrey froze. Her breathing quickened. Then it hit. The meltdown. She shoved the woman aside. Glasses crashed to the ground. Tables shook. Audrey screamed so loudly the orchestra stopped mid-song. Guests gasped and stepped back. Some raised their phones. Others whispered in disgust. Security rushed forward instantly, 2 guards reaching for her arms, prepared to drag her out like they had done before. Robert covered his face with his hand, humiliated. He didn't even try to approach her. He'd learned that doing so only made things worse. "Get her out of here," the head guard ordered. But Maya moved before they could touch her. "Stop!" Her voice shot through the ballroom like lightning. Security froze. Guests stared. The cameras turned toward her. Maya didn't care. She knelt slowly in front of Audrey, who was shaking, screaming, trapped in her own fear. Maya didn't flinch. She didn't yell. She didn't force her to stand. Instead, she opened her arms. Audrey collapsed into them. "It's okay," Maya whispered, stroking her hair. "Breathe with me. Just breathe. I've got you." Security hovered. Guests whispered. Robert stood frozen. But Maya's voice didn't waver. "You're safe. I'm not going anywhere." Audrey sobbed so hard, her entire body trembled. Her screams died into hiccups, then into whimpers, and finally into silence, her face buried in Maya's shoulder. It was the most vulnerable the child had ever been. And for the first time, the world saw not a spoiled monster, but a grieving little girl. When Audrey finally spoke, her voice was broken. "Maya, I miss my mom." The entire ballroom inhaled sharply. Robert's head snapped up. Maya held her tighter. "I know, baby." "No one lets me talk about her," Audrey sobbed. "They act like she never existed." Maya's eyes softened. She brushed Audrey's hair away from her face and whispered gently, "Then we'll talk about her as long as you need." Silence fell over the gala. Thick, aching silence. Audrey wasn't defiant. She wasn't cruel. She was hurt. And Maya was the first person in years who had actually listened. Robert's breath caught. His eyes filled with tears, not just because he'd witnessed a miracle, but because in that single moment he realized Maya hadn't just calmed his daughter, she had saved her. He stepped forward, voice shaking, staring at Maya like he had just seen the answer to a prayer he never believed would be answered. And the question burning in his eyes was unmistakable. What if Maya was the person who could save their family? Everyone thought Audrey Hill would grow into a headline disaster. Nobody imagined she'd find her salvation in a waitress who refused to walk away. For the next few days after the charity event, the entire Hill mansion moved differently. Quieter, softer, almost reverent. People whispered Maya's name in the halls like she'd performed a miracle. Maybe she had. Audrey didn't scream when she woke up anymore. She didn't throw things. She didn't demand impossible breakfasts at 3 a.m. Instead, she padded down the hallway each morning carrying her stuffed fox, looking for Maya, because Maya was the first person she had ever trusted enough to whisper, "I'm scared." And Maya stayed. Not because the paycheck was life-changing, not because the media was calling her a hero, but because, somewhere between the chaos and the tears, She realized Audrey wasn't a wild child. She was a wounded one. The changes started small. Audrey waited her turn during breakfast. She actually apologized, after accidentally spilling juice on the marble floor. The staff froze in shock. Some nearly dropped their trays. Audrey Hill had never apologized to anyone for anything. But the biggest change happened during her first therapy session back. Dr. Terence, a soft-spoken child psychologist, watched in disbelief as Audrey willingly sat on the couch with Maya beside her. Normally, Audrey refused to enter the room unless she was bribed with gifts. This time, she held Maya's hand and whispered, "It's okay. I'll try." Maya squeezed her little fingers. "That's all we do, Audrey. We try." For the first time, the session didn't end in screaming or destruction. It ended with Audrey drawing a picture, herself, Maya, and her mother holding hands. Dr. Terence looked at Maya with awe. "I don't know what you did," he said quietly, "but this child feels safe with you in a way she never has." That evening, Robert asked Maya to meet him in his private study. He looked exhausted, relieved, and humbled all at once. "Sit, Maya," he said softly. "Please." She sat, unsure of what was coming. Robert folded his hands. "I've watched dozens of experts try and fail to reach my daughter. But you," his voice cracked, "you gave her something money could not buy." Maya stayed silent, letting him gather himself. "I want to make this official," he continued. "I'm formally appointing you as Audrey's permanent guardian mentor. Not a nanny, not staff, family." Maya blinked in shock. "Family?" "Yes, full authority over her emotional, academic, and day-to-day decisions. A salary 5 times what I initially offered. A private suite permanently yours. Full education sponsorship. And," he paused, looking almost shy, "a future here, for as long as you want it." It was overwhelming, life-changing. A door she never imagined would open for a girl who used to juggle double shifts to keep the lights on at home. But none of those things were why she nodded and said, "Yes." She agreed because somewhere along the way, that chaotic little girl had curled her fingers around Maya's heart. Within the mansion, everything shifted. Staff who once whispered doubts now greeted her with respect. The chef asked what Audrey would like for dinner, asking Maya, not guessing anymore. The housekeepers took cues from her on Audrey's routines. Even the security team asked her opinion on event protocols. And the media? They loved the story. The waitress who tamed the wild heiress. The child no one could handle, until she came. Is Maya Hart the new face of child behavioral care? Parents emailed the foundation begging for her help. Schools asked for workshops. Other billionaires quietly reached out to Robert, offering ridiculous sums to consult with Maya. But Maya stayed focused on one thing, Audrey. It happened one quiet night. Maya tucked Audrey into bed, smoothing the girl's messy curls and making sure her stuffed fox was safely under her arm. Audrey stared at the ceiling for a long moment. Then she whispered something so fragile, Maya almost didn't hear it. "Do you think," Audrey swallowed, voice trembling, "that if you never leave me, I can be normal?" Maya's chest tightened. This wasn't attitude. This wasn't manipulation. This was fear. The deepest fear of a child who had been abandoned too many times. Maya cupped Audrey's cheek, brushing away a tear. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered, "you're already becoming more than normal." Audrey blinked. "I am?" Maya smiled. "You're becoming you, and that's the best thing you could ever be." Audrey wrapped her small arms around Maya's waist, hugging her tight. And for the first time, she didn't cling out of fear. She held on out of love.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.